Welcome to Beyond the Guidelines, the podcast that takes you past the listings, the programs, and all the polished sales talk to reveal the real people shaping today's real estate world. Here we uncover the personal stories, struggles, and wins that define each guest, giving you a fresh, human perspective on the business. At Creative First Mortgage, we're on a mission to help you see the person behind the professional, because real estate isn't just about the deals, it's about connection.
Welcome to Beyond the Guidelines. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing on our creative genius behind the scenes, Zac Broadbent. Welcome to the show, Zac.
Hey, Ryan. How are you?
I am good. So we'll start this episode just like we start most of our episodes here in talking about the purpose that Zac came up with before the show. So, Zac, you mentioned that helping families to accomplish their dreams of homeownership through quality communication, support, and knowledge is your purpose. How did you get to that purpose?
So family's always been a huge importance for me. Growing up, it was mainly just my mom and I. So biggest thing for her was spending time together and feeling safe where you're at. And wherever she was, that's where home was. So when I got into business forever and a day ago, it really hit home with me of the importance of people finding the right home and being able to grow their family to move on to the next stage and journey, but feel that safe space at home, but knowing somebody was there to help with that safe space and being able to give them that makes me feel better.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I know that when we were talking to you up front of when we brought you on just under a year ago now, that was one of the biggest things that Jason and I tapped into was that you really took this to your core, and it's not just funding the loan that's important to you. It's making sure that the families behind the scenes or behind the deal are taken care of as well. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from our real estate partners and our business partners saying that, that's definitely something that you represent, that you really truly care about all of your clients on a personal level. So when you are not wearing your mortgage creative extraordinaire hat, who is Zac?
So for me, I'm a simple person. I enjoy relaxing at home. Like I said, family's a huge thing. So for me, I enjoy having people around. So whether that be game night with friends or family dinners, going out to eat with friends or family, for me, it's being the homebody is kind of how I grew up. And so that's what I enjoy. But I also enjoy getting out, and I'm a techie at heart a little bit. So I like being able to find new tech things and explore. So most of the time, even when I'm not wearing my mortgage hat, I'm still thinking of things to better the process for everybody. So it's never really a day off in mortgage.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely on the mind pretty much 24/7. And while that can be a good thing, it definitely can be a taxing thing for sure. What do you do to kind of take your mind off of it when you get those moments that you're able to step away?
So for me, I love road trips, and music is kind of a release. So typically on like a Saturday morning, if thankfully there's no one calling that morning, it's turn up the music and clean. And music is my escape. So whether that's in the shower or on a back road getting lost, because I just moved to Texas. So I'm exploring that and figuring out where my new home is. And so exploring with the windows down and music is my escape mentally from life in general.
Yeah, you got to be careful on those back roads of Texas. You might come across something you don't want to come across, but definitely a good way to vent a little bit.
I mean, I found some good land. So, hopefully, a new home eventually down the line, and building is in the plan. So exploring it has led me down a path of, okay, we've got to work a little bit harder to get more land because that's the end goal for me.
Yeah, just getting out into that space, and that's really cool. So you mentioned that you've been in the mortgage business forever and a day. I happen to know that's right around a decade. So what is a challenge or failure that shaped how you approach your career today?
So I originally started in a broker shop and got my feet wet, basically helping stuff bags. Worked my way up to receptionist, junior processor, becoming a processor, then eventually becoming an originator. So a challenge that kind of shaped me was, it was kind of my first loan I was processing. We had just gone through a little change, and in the midst of it, I turned in a home inspection on a client. Thankfully, this client has now turned into a dear friend, and so her and I can joke about this, but I turned in a home inspection report to underwriting. And without realizing it, I got slapped with about 18 conditions for repairs needing to be done that were separate from the appraisal. And that instance, there was no way to fix it because obviously once the underwriter sees it, they can't unsee it. There was no way to fix it other than, thankfully, those repairs did get completed by the seller, but I learned a valuable lesson of never turn in a home inspection. So it's always best to look at what you got and have it and not need it. It's one thing that was always ingrained in me. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So with the home inspection, I learned a valuable lesson. And going forward, there's been times where it's like, oh, what you think may not be an issue and you've turned in turns into issues. So that one situation has kind of restructured everything. So I take those defeats a little bit harder because being from a processing background where you work hand in hand with an underwriter and borrowers to get them to the closing table, you learn different things. So I always go back to that first one of, you learned, you fixed your mistake, don't let it happen again. And so that's been the lesson that sticks with me. So there's times where even still I make mistakes and I'm like, okay, I've learned my lesson on this one and I'm moving on and we'll readjust for the future.
Yeah, I think that's really the mortgage game, and whoever fixes those mistakes or processes the best is who's going to win in the end. And I know that Jason and I have talked about this quite a bit, where just having you in the background of seeing these things and being able to adapt and then putting in a process for it, that's really what the entire mortgage game is about. And the people that do that the best are the ones that are going to win. Kind of off the back of that is, what's one mindset or habit that you credit for the success that you've had in the industry?
For me, it's a double-edged sword because it can be a good or a bad thing, but it's my tenacity to know within myself that I'm right. Previous company that I worked for, it was a bumpy road with underwriting at start because of the fact, coming from a broker where things are different and you have 25 different investors you can send things to now you've got one team that's all they do is underwriting, and it's their way or no way. So learning that was a shift. But for me, it's the tenacity that I want to be right. So I find where I'm right or where I'm wrong. And it's been helpful because I've earned a lot of respect from different colleagues within the industry of, when I go to fight, while I can be a little bit aggressive sometimes, if I'm fighting, it's because I do feel there's a good chance that I'm right and I can back it up. So it's can sometimes be that hindrance, because sometimes when you fight thinking you're right and you're wrong, you kind of have to tuck your tail between your legs and move on, and you grow from it. But thankfully, I was able to do that. And so now there's times where I notice I'm getting to that point. I'm like, okay, if I'm not 100%, I know I need to kind of back off and then regroup. So that's the one strength, is because of the fact I don't want to be wrong and I want to be right and know that I have it set up correctly. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword, but that for me is, I feel like, my best strength.
Yeah, it can definitely be something that can drive you to new heights by allowing yourself to recognize that you are wrong and maybe go about it a different way. And that's something that you've definitely been developing over the time period that we've been together, for sure. And it's just a bunch of different strategies kind of coming into play. It's really funny, how different Jason and I are on origination, and you get to play the part between both of us, and recognizing that a lot of the stuff that you learned at that place, there was one origination team, doesn't really apply when you get out into the wide open world of being a broker again. And being able to kind of summarize all that information and collapse it all is a skill, so that you can use it to push for when you are right, for sure. So I applaud your ability to find answers, and being able to do that stuff is a big thing. So this is a funny question, and it kind of turns you in a little different way. So a lot of people have misconceptions about the industry as a whole, what we do, what we don't do. What do you think that people most misunderstand about what you do?
So I feel like the most misconception about what I do is, while I have one title, it's not a set title that has a box. It is one that bends and shifts and becomes an octagon, a hexagon, and a trapezoid, and all the other geometry figures that we learned way back when. It's not easy for this position, because it's 1 minute you can be working on something as simple as, hey, you got to respond to this email, they want to know when closing is, to the next minute you have a file that this is your second investor and they don't like the appraisal, and so now you're stuck where you have to change hats so quickly. And people think, oh, it's not that hard, you're just collecting documents and turning it in. And it's not that. Even for every position within mortgage, it's not as easy as what people think it is. There's always some caveat to whatever you're doing that can change on a dime.
Yeah, I think the marketing around some of the origination idea, certain companies that have broadcast that a lot of what they do is AI and that kind of stuff, and creating simplicities around what we do has been the reason for that drive, and pushing us into the idea of, well, maybe it is that simple. And so as an outside person, realtors see it as well, right? They get, all they do is open doors and sign paperwork. And obviously there's so much more that goes into it, because you can tell the difference between a good real estate agent and a bad real estate agent, just like you can tell the difference between a good origination team and a bad origination team. And if you've had a bad experience, a lot of times it's because they didn't know what they were doing. like most of the deals end up, there's something sticky on every file, right? Or every loan that goes through, but we are able to preempt it, and you do a really good job of preempting it, because like you said, you'd rather have it and not need it versus need it and not have it. And so that's where a lot of that misconception can be turned around by you, and you do a good job of kind of beating that understanding or that thought of all we do is submit paperwork.
It's not an easy task, and a lot of people don't realize that. And most of the time, when you are submitting that piece of paper, if that's your last item, that's sometimes the best piece, is because now you get to go to that client. And for example, I had a file last week where I thought I was gonna have to call this borrower again and be like, I need something. And finally I got to call him and say, now for my 85th call, you're clear to close. So it's those moments where people may think you're just pushing a piece of paper around, and sometimes you do feel that way, but it's that moment when you can call that borrower and go, you're finally clear, we can schedule. That makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I would do a lot of things to have a file where all I did was push paper around on a file. That would be a file I would love to have at this point. So, and now that obviously we talked about kind of some of the troubles or the challenges and failures that you faced, and kind of all the success side as well, if you could give yourself, as a younger person or a younger person in your position, one piece of advice when starting out, what would it be?
The best piece of advice, if I could look at myself pre-2013 when I got into business, is trust, but always verify. It's one of yours and Jason's favorite things to put out there. Always trust, but verify. And I'm learning it more as I've gone through life myself, personal trials and tribulations. it's always better to believe what you're being told, but verify it. Don't just trust one person. Don't just trust one method, because there's like a math problem, 20 different ways to get to the same answer, and everyone has a different point of view. And while each person might be different, you might learn something. And that's one thing I can say, being here with you guys, I didn't do a lot of non-QM and ITIN loans. And my mind wasn't necessarily open to them because it was outside of what I knew that I was good at. But now I'm slowly getting better at them. And so it's believe what people tell you, but verify it and then do it yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of times with, what you were saying with the verification piece, like it kind of falls back into that, when you go to fight with an underwriting team or whoever you're fighting with to make something happen, you have to go verify that information as well. And so, just knowing where to go to find that information is super important as well. What drives you as far as organization? You mentioned you were a techie person, so I'm going to pull that in. What technologies are you using to kind of help yourself realign and make sure that that stuff stays in your face and being able to find that stuff when you need it?
So the good thing is our operating system is amazing. Being able to make mistakes, find them, and fix them for the next person. Because it's always been told to me, I'm just trying to make my job easier. But the thing is it's an assembly line, and it has to start somewhere. So somebody has to start the hard work first. But it's being able to put different processes in. So utilizing our operating system, utilizing ChatGPT has been a great tool for me to use. And it's been one where it's hard to kind of go into, because it's one of those, you can almost get in trouble with AI in a sense, I feel like. So it's one of those where I don't want to rely on it too much, because while AI can't necessarily replace me, it can replace a lot of what I do. So don't want to rely on it too much, but utilizing different features in different systems from not only investors, but throughout the time frame I've been in mortgage, different systems that worked and that I've heard and I've seen from different people I've been implementing. And Microsoft has been a great one, because I've been utilizing more of its features now that I've been able to kind of play with it. And that's my biggest thing, is I always rely on my to-do list, and emails kind of been the main one, but it's slowly been evolved to different tasks and automations that I've been able to set up to prevent different things. So like I said, it's the safeguards of my mistakes that I'm putting in place to help, and it's through whatever systems we have available and what I can find.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we've been pretty good about doing with you as well is creating this like level of service, right? So your service is always over the top, like better than 99% of the people in the industry, right? Because you're always personally involved, like we talked about up front, and being able to bring in your actual emotion a little bit in strategic ways, and utilizing some of those systems that we put into place to just raise the bar of that service level, so that if you're out doing something else or working on another file, that service level is still there. And so that's been super important to get in. How are you utilizing that stuff to support our realtor partners at this point? What kind of systems have you put into place to help out with that?
So one thing, like I said, with our operating system, it offers so much functionality. It's not only our operating system where I work on every single file, it's also kind of like a client relationship manager. It's a portal for agents. So one thing my processing team has been like going, hey, this is what we wish everybody would do. Because obviously we use a third-party processing company, and so they process for different companies and different people, and they come back and go, hey, we want your files. Like, your files are set up good. And it's making sure that the realtors have their portals created, being able to offer communication, whether it be from me automatically or manually, being able to provide quick updates and for agents to pop in a file and go, okay, I can see that this loan is in underwriting. Cool. I know exactly where we're at. I can know when the appraisal's ordered. So a lot of the features that have been implemented within our operating system has been amazing for our agents, because one of them, she can literally send a link to her borrower and know as soon as they apply, she can look at it and see what their status is. Once their pre-approval's issued, she's been able to offer homes without ever having to contact me for a pre-approval letter at 10 o'clock at night. And she texts me the next morning. She goes, I love your system because I was working on their offer at 10:30. While I knew you might have been up, I didn't want to text you. But because it was less than what you pre-approved them for, I was able to go in and generate it. This is amazing. So having those little tidbits from the agents and listening to what they want and what they want to see and slowly getting those incorporated has been kind of the fun part of my position. Is how can we make it better, not only for our side as mortgage professionals, whether it be for the loan officer, LOA, processing, underwriting, closing, but how can we make it better for you guys as real estate agents, transaction coordinators, the borrowers?
Yeah, it's super important to be able to support your business partners. And I think, a lot of times loan officers are just stuck in seeing the outcome of the commission and not recognizing that, again, it plays back into what we've talked about through this whole thing of how you make personal connections, and being able to tailor your experience for your business partners as well is super important. And so many people don't do it, but you taking the extra time to make sure those systems are set up. And you send emails to my real estate agents that I didn't even know went out to get them into the portal, and I haven't ever talked about it with them. So they, they see it and they're like, oh, this is great. And being able to do that. And I know one thing that you and I have talked about that we will be rolling out is kind of some coaching on the back end as well, and being able to get some of those courses out. We're going to do one on ChatGPT like we talked about. We're going to start doing some webinars for buyers and stuff like that, and being able to communicate effectively, because those realtors want to hear from us is such a big thing. Most real estate agents are getting loan officer emails and they don't want to touch them because they don't want to, they don't even care what's inside. Right. And so giving quality information and supporting them in their business is so huge. And then, the other side of that too, that we haven't approached yet, but just when realtors send in buyers, what kind of systems or what are you utilizing when they do send you a buyer to follow up with them and make sure that we're converting and getting that loan in the pipeline?
So what's great is we have a phenomenal CRM that has been months and months and months in the making and has officially rolled out. So a lot of it, while we've automated and streamlined it, there's still that personal touch. And, there's times where I hate bombarding agents with multiple texts. And sometimes I can see the system, it's going, boom. Well, I might be 5 seconds faster than the system. And so it's becomes a race going, okay, how quickly can we get this agent updated to go, hey, we've got their file, we're working on it, we're talking to them, before the automated system. Sometimes I can beat the system. Other times I might be buried in another file that, thankfully, because we have such a good CRM built out, it allows for us to be able to still offer that personalized touch without giving up the personalized touch of where we're currently at, but being able to shift and pivot quickly.
Yeah. And utilizing, like you mentioned, sometimes it feels like a race for sure to go ahead and put your personal touch on it. But that's that standard of service that we just talked about, of, having a baseline that's already higher than most people's, and then you get to add in your personal flair on top of it. So we've touched on quite a bit. So I'll ask you one more question and then we'll wrap up. But what's next for Zac, whether it's professionally or personally, that you are most excited about?
So professionally, is my career has kind of now fluctuated back to top of mind and rebuilding me as a person. Like I said, trials and tribulations, personal life, but I'm excited for this position and where Creative First is going. This is not the first company where I've entered in and been able to kind of help put my touch on it. And that's what I've enjoyed, is being able to bring a different viewpoint. Because like you said, you guys come from different backgrounds. Obviously, with your loan types, it's, I'm good at VA, you're good at USDA and Florida loans, and Jason's good at, those oddball ITIN loans. And being able to mesh everything in everybody's perspectives, goals, and wants together, I'm excited for me to see how I can grow with Creative First along with it, to be able to expand and grow, because I'm believe in longevity and I like my home. I like where I'm at, and I'm excited for us to grow and expand and become bigger and better.
Well, we're excited to have you in that growth, and obviously we've definitely kind of intertwined you into almost everything we do from beginning to end, and being able to teach you and learn from you, and just assembling that team like you talked about. Like we want to have a team of, one person's an expert on one thing, instead of having the person that's the expert on all things. We'd rather have, individuals that are expertise on specific things, and being able to pass those ideas around. That creates just a well-rounded business, and you're a big part of that. So we definitely appreciate having you on the team, and loved speaking with you today. Obviously, we kind of got to see a little different side. Some of the answers you gave I wasn't expecting, so that's awesome. And we'll get this episode up and get it out there.
Perfect. I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for the chat.
All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Today's episode of Beyond the Guidelines comes to a close, but the story doesn't end here. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next one. And if you'd like to share your own story on the show, check out the link in the description to connect with us. Until next time, keep rewriting the rules, and remember to go beyond the guidelines.